Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Sunday, 5 o'clock somewhere, tropical update, and we're going to talk about Ian. Ian is on everybody's minds. Did an update this morning, and not too much has changed, except we are seeing models stick with that little bit of east track. And the 5 o'clock NHC update just came out, and they did bump it a little bit to the east. So we might have seen the end of the west bumps. Now it's kind of bouncing a little bit to the east, but there is a ton of uncertainty according to the National Hurricane Center, which is putting everybody kind of on pins and needles. I'm going to show you all the latest models. As you know, that's what we do, and the models sometimes clear things up when we start seeing a majority of them agreeing on things like track and intensity. So with that being said, I am just a weather blogger. Nothing here is official. Always refer back to the National Hurricane Center and National Weather Service for official information. Always. All right, so here's the latest. This is your latest 5 o'clock track. No big changes. The storm really hasn't intensified today. It might be a good thing. Maybe it's taken a little longer, but it's still expected to be a major hurricane. Remember, most of the intensification wasn't expected until the Western Caribbean, lower Gulf, still expected to be a major hurricane. We now have tropical storm watches for the Keys. You might wonder, well, heck, the cone isn't even close to the Keys. Well, that's because the storm is a lot wider than the cone. The cone is where the eye can go. I can't stress that enough. It's the eye, not the effects. So, yes, the eye could still go south of Tampa Bay. It could still go to the Panhandle, according to the according to GFS, but according to the NHC. But we do have more models kind of hitting a little bit more with the eastern slide. But anyway, this is the cone. Anybody in that cone could officially get the eye of the hurricane. But we have a major hurricane expected. Here's what some key points tonight. Always great to read the key messages from the National Hurricane Center. Basically, they're just saying, bottom line, regardless of the track, dangerous storm surge, hurricane force winds, and heavy rainfall on the west coast, Florida, and the Florida Panhandle. So pretty much everything is still the same as far as effects that are to come. Timing, we're still looking maybe a little slowdown, but still Tuesday morning we're going to start seeing tropical storm force winds South Florida, tropical storm force winds Middle Florida on Tuesday night, and Wednesday morning they can start stretching up into more middle of the peninsula there, and then Wednesday night everybody in Florida could possibly feel tropical storm force winds. That's because our system is wide, large. Even though the eye is going to be way down here, the winds are going to be way up here because of our overall size of the storm. You can get a look here how big it really is. This is Cuba. This is near the Yucatan, getting really close to the Cayman Islands right now. The western parts are under a hurricane warning, but it really doesn't look much different than it did at 11 o'clock this morning. So, it's taking its time. It's still got structure. It's still rotating. The thing that sticks out, I guess, more than anything for me is the actual size of the system is quite large. Let's pull up the water vapor loop here. You'll see what I'm talking about. The overall presence of the storm is fairly large, and that'll likely become the storyline as this thing develops. Just a large moisture field. I mean, here's Florida right here, so you get the idea. This thing's pretty big. And one thing that they're stressing is, it doesn't matter the track. This thing's going to be so big that a track even just west of the peninsula is going to have far-reaching effects towards the whole state of Florida, including the Keys, including Miami, up the East Coast because of the rotation. Remember Irma? Irma had a lot of effects on the East Coast with storms coming in, surge all the way up to Jacksonville and north. So as our system, makes this turn, you draw this circle here, we got more than just landfall that could be affected. Here's the latest spaghetti models. These are tricky. Here's tropical tidbits. We're going to use tropical tidbits for all the modeling here in a few seconds, but the models are keeping the NHC honest. They pretty much are going with a cone that's kind of right here. some of the modeling that they're going off of, I personally haven't seen good track history. HMON, HWARF, GFS hasn't really been all that great this year. So some of the more reputable models, in my opinion, are going more east. And as a matter of fact, this is something I just noticed. The TVCN line is your consensus line, and it has really tracked east of the NHC, and this could be pretty significant right here. So your official track here is the black. Your official consensus model is pretty far east. They did mention that we could see more track changes at 11, so we could see another bump. Some more models here. Again, you can kind of see the consensus line is east of the official line. So I think we're going to see more bumps to the east. 10 city models here in Tropical Tidbits. You can see 3-4 range. Pretty much every model expects this to be a major hurricane. How long it maintains the intensity now is the question, and that's what we're going to look at right now. So let's take a look at that. So these are all your models on the Euro first. What we're going to see is a storm coming out of Cuba, slowly developing, and the most warm waters of the Atlantic, lower Gulf, light shear. Totally expect this to intensify. Every storm in the past has intensified this time of year, and that's what pretty much all models are showing. But the Euro, down in the 960 range. Look where it's going. Slow down right across the Florida west coast. That's the same theme. A slowdown, extended periods of surge, rainfall, squall lines. This thing has been showing up to slow down in relation to a high pressure that's building back in. And this could bring a lot of additional rain and storms and surge. The more that water sits out there and turns, the more water that gets pumped into the bay, south of the bay, north of the bay, basically all of west central Florida, I'm thinking could be under some extreme surges, some of the most that we've ever seen. So the Euro is not backing down as far as the Tampa Bay area. When I speak of area, I mentioned it earlier. To me, the Tampa Bay area is kind of your FM station pickup. When I think of Tampa Bay area, I'm thinking about this whole area right here. So that's west central Florida. The Icon is a fairly decent model, in my opinion. It's done very well over the last couple of years. It's showing the same thing. Strengthening system, 960, 957, 949. It's actually going a little bit south of the Tampa Bay area, but it's consistent. Two models slowing down a little bit. Icon goes a little bit more inland, and that's significant. Things I need to point out here real quick since we got it up here. As this thing makes the approach, we're going to see counterclockwise storms impact the Keys. They're going to impact Miami. They're going to impact both sides of the state. Definitely. So we're going to see actual effects on both sides of the state as our system comes up. We're going to see inland effects. We're going to see hurricane force winds inland. It's not just a coastal event. This thing is actually going to bring storms across the whole peninsula as it approaches. Time frame is all about the same. This would be Wednesday morning, so it's happening quick. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're dealing with this thing. All right, the latest Canadian. It's been trending a little bit like the GFS, and it's going a little bit more east today, getting pretty close to Tampa Bay. So another trend east. And your latest GFS, this has been the outlier. It has, again, strengthened the heck out of this thing, which is very understandable. And it has a little bit of a wiggle now to the Eastern Panhandle Big Bend area, but that's a pretty significant shift. The last three runs of the GFS shifting east. But interesting to note, the NHC is very confident that this thing is going to reduce strength because of shear and dry air. But look at the latest Euro, 964 on approach. This is where it gets tricky. If that's the case, a 964 storm surge is going to be pushing along with our system. And And we can have significant surge even with a 1 or a 2 because of the systems already would have been a 3 or 4. So that's going to be, the takeaways. Don't focus on, it's only going to be a 1 or a 2. Same thing as this morning. We could still see significant surge pushing up with a major hurricane. And I got some surge maps to kind of show you what I'm talking about here based on the latest track. Here's the models I put together. You can see them in a different way. The UK hasn't run yet. The UK, actually, let's see. It might be. Let's take a little sneak peek. Usually I have this stuff preloaded, but I'm going to take a look here if the UK is up. Because the UK was actually showing Tampa Bay area also. Which isn't a bad model. It's been decent over the years. So we'll take a look here at the Gulf of Mexico and see if the 12Z is up yet. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's see what they do. And there you go. So the UK is still showing a slowing down on approach. So, a slowdown approaching the coast, prolonged surge, increases inland flooding, just magnifies power loss, outages, and we haven't got into that yet. So the other thing, of course, is rainfall. They're expecting upwards of double digits rain across a big part of the peninsula. Ground's already saturated. Expect widespread power outages because of this extra saturated grounds. Power outages are guaranteed. Tornadoes are a guarantee. And high winds are also a guarantee. Now, this is the last graphic I'm going to show you. This one has not been updated yet, I don't think. It takes a little while to update to the latest track. So this is still based on the 11 a.m. track. Our new track is actually shifted a little bit east, so the values are going to be a little greater as far as storm surge. But this kind of gives you the idea based on the current track. Now we got a little bit of shift, so that means less. The heaviest shears or surge is always on the eastern side because of the counterclockwise flow. But look at some of these areas. Across the Big Bend area, some of this surge is crossing land quite a bit. Crystal River, Homosassa, Pine Island, Hernando Beach. We get down to Tampa Bay. This, like I said, this is on a track that was farther to the west. This comes east. Look at some of these surge values in the Tampa Bay area. We got areas in Oldsmar where I live, Safety Harbor, places in Tampa, Davis Island. All this area could be covered in water. A lot of folks here on the Florida West Coast could be dealing with Ada style surge, but more. And of course, this can even extend south into the Manatee, Bradenton, even Sarasota counties. And to note, real quick, then we got to go. I try to keep these short and sweet, but the latest track intensity is only showing a hurricane off the coast of Florida. Some of these models are showing more. Again, NHC always, in my opinion, always underestimates intensity. Dorian, Michael, even with Fiona, they just don't show intensity until it's a little closer. So stronger system brings more surge is what I'm getting at. And then one last thing is the tide cycle. We're in a new moon. You add storm surge to tide values, you have something called storm tide, and that is not included when surge values. So if you see a 6-foot surge and you got a 2-foot tide cycle, now 3 because of the new moon, that'll be 9 feet. So big issues. So nothing's changed this morning. I'm afraid the peninsula is going to be at a greater risk. That was the theme this morning. It's appearing that way. So we got to wait till 11. There'll be a new track at 11. More Hurricane Hunter data is coming in, and they're trying to get a good handle on the front coming down, how strong it is. And then in the short term, our system supposed to develop. We'll keep an eye on it, but all the models and NAC is confident this is going to develop into a pretty strong hurricane. So still very concerned here on my end. So I'm watching it like a hawk. We will be live tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, and I got a special guest, Mr. Guthrie from the state will be here talking Florida preparedness. They actually reached out, wanted to be on our live, so that was a pretty awesome email that the big dogs are watching us here. So make sure you tune in tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a special guest, and then we're going to go over all the latest and greatest after that with the modeling. So we'll see you then.